Right now, somewhere on this planet, there is a line that exists on maps, in treaties, and in law, but not on the ground. No paint, no wall, no fence. Just grass, or sand, or a river that doesn't care which bank belongs to which country. And on that invisible line, a crime has just been committed. A body lies with its head in one nation and its feet in another. Two police cars arrive from opposite directions, lights flashing in different colors. Two detectives step out, pull out their badges, and stare at each other across a few meters of dirt that might as well be an ocean. And the first question neither of them can answer is the simplest one in all of law enforcement. Whose case is this? This is the story of what happens when a crime falls exactly where no country's authority cleanly begins or ends. First, let's understand what a border actually is. We think of it as a sharp edge, a wall you can touch, a checkpoint you walk through. But most of the world's international boundaries are nothing like that. They run through forests, farmland, deserts, living rooms. There are houses in Europe where the border cuts through the kitchen. There is a library that sits in both the United States and Canada, with a painted line on the floor. There are villages where one side of the street pays taxes to one government, and the other side pays a different one. The line is legal, not physical. And when something violent happens on top of it, that legal fiction suddenly has to become a legal reality. Fast. So, a crime scene. Let's make it concrete. Imagine a shooting on a bridge that spans a river between two countries. The victim was standing in the middle when the bullet hit. The shooter was on one bank. The victim fell and died on the other. The weapon was fired in country A. The death occurred in country B. The bullet crossed an international boundary in flight. This is not a thought experiment. Crimes like this have actually happened. On bridges between the US and Mexico, between neighboring European states, along disputed borders in Asia and Africa. And every single time, the same chaos unfolds. The first problem is jurisdiction. In domestic law, jurisdiction is usually simple. The crime happened in this city, this state, this district, so these cops handle it and this court tries it. But when a crime straddles an international border, there is no automatic answer. Both countries may claim jurisdiction. Both countries may deny it. And there is no world court sitting above them with the authority to assign the case, the way a judge assigns a file to a courtroom. International law offers principles, not orders. One principle says jurisdiction belongs where the criminal act was performed. Another says it belongs where the harm was suffered. A third says the nationality of the victim matters. A fourth says the nationality of the perpetrator matters. When all four principles point in different directions, you don't get clarity, you get a negotiation. And negotiations take time. While diplomats and prosecutors figure out whose law applies, evidence degrades, blood dries, rain washes away tire tracks, witnesses forget details, move away, or simply refuse to talk to foreign officers they don't trust. The crime scene itself may be physically inaccessible to one side because crossing the border requires permission the other country hasn't granted yet. Imagine a forensic team standing 10 meters from a bloodstain they're not legally allowed to touch, watching it fade in the sun. It sounds absurd. It has happened more than once. The second problem is law itself. Even if both countries agree to cooperate, their legal systems may be fundamentally incompatible. One country may classify the act as murder. The other may call it manslaughter. One may allow the death penalty. The other may consider extradition to a death penalty country a human rights violation. One may require a jury trial. The other may use a panel of judges. The sentence for the same act, performed by the same person, on the same day, could range from 8 years to life. depending on which side of an invisible line the courtroom sits. Justice is supposed to be blind, but it turns out she also needs a passport. There are frameworks designed to handle this, but they are slower and weaker than most people assume. Mutual legal assistance treaties allow countries to share evidence, serve subpoenas across borders, and freeze assets. Interpol can issue red notices, essentially international wanted posters. Extradition treaties define which crimes qualify for handing a suspect over. But every one of these mechanisms requires agreement between sovereign nations. And sovereignty is the one thing countries guard more jealously than anything else. A treaty can take months to invoke. An extradition hearing can take years. And if the two countries don't have a treaty at all, the entire system grinds to a halt, leaving the crime in a legal vacuum where neither side can prosecute effectively. The European Union tried to solve this with a concept that would have sounded radical a generation ago: the European Arrest Warrant. Within the EU, a warrant issued in one member state is recognized in all others, with streamlined procedures and tight deadlines. It was created precisely to close the gaps that border criminals exploit, and it has worked, sometimes dramatically. Suspects who fled across European borders and would once have vanished into years of diplomatic correspondence have been arrested and returned in days. But even this system has limits. Member states can refuse on human rights grounds. Political tensions can stall the process. And the moment a crime involves a non-EU country, the old patchwork of bilateral treaties takes over again. Then there are the cases that fall into true legal no man's land. Crimes committed on bridges that belong to neither country. Crimes on rivers where the exact boundary follows the deepest channel, which shifts with the current and the season. Crimes in border towns where buildings physically span the line. In one famous European case, authorities discovered that a suspect had committed part of an offense in one room of a building and completed it in an adjacent room that happened to be in a different country. The wall between the rooms was the border. The investigation required two separate legal teams, two chains of evidence, and two prosecutorial strategies for what was, in practical terms, one crime and one building. How do these cases usually end? Quietly. In most real-world border crimes, one country takes the lead through informal agreement. Often, whichever side has the stronger case, the better evidence, or the suspect in custody.
The other country cooperates, shares what it can, and accepts the outcome. It's pragmatic, not elegant. There is no global rule book that says this is how it must work. It works because the alternative, two countries publicly fighting over a murder trial, is embarrassing for everyone. Diplomacy, not law, is the real operating system of cross-border justice. But the uncomfortable truth is that some people know this and use it deliberately. Smugglers build tunnels that cross borders underground, ensuring that any prosecution has to untangle two jurisdictions. Drug traffickers operate on rivers where the boundary is disputed, knowing that neither Coast Guard can act decisively. And in the digital age, the border problem has exploded into something entirely new, something no treaty written before the internet was designed to handle. A hacker sitting in country A attacks a server in country B that stores data belonging to citizens of country C. The stolen money flows through cryptocurrency wallets registered in country D and cashes out through banks in country E. Which country investigates? Which court hears the case? Which prison holds the convicted? The physical border, at least, was a line you could point to on a map. In cyberspace, there are no lines at all, and the jurisdictional chaos that once required a bridge or a river now happens silently, invisibly, with every keystroke.
The border is humanity's oldest legal invention, a line that says, on this side, our rules apply. On that side, yours. It has kept peace, defined wars, shaped identities for thousands of years. It works beautifully, right up until something happens on the line itself. And when it does, the world's most sophisticated legal systems reveal a truth they'd rather keep quiet. There are places on this planet where the law simply isn't sure whose law it is. And in those places, justice depends not on statutes, but on phone calls between people who may not even speak the same language. But border crimes aren't even the strangest place where familiar rules completely break down. There's an environment where no law of any country applies, and neither do the laws your own body was built for. Step outside a spacecraft without a suit, and you have roughly 15 seconds of consciousness. No explosion, no freezing, no dramatic Hollywood death. What actually happens is stranger, quieter, and more terrifying than any movie has ever shown. That story is next. And if you don't want to miss it, you know what to do.